So I just watched Spinal Tap 2, The End Continues, directed and co-written by Rob Reiner alongside Christopher Guest, Michael McKean, and Harry Shearer. And so I actually have a little something to confess before I start the review. Admittedly, I've never loved the first Spinal Tap as much as most people who watch it seem to. Like, it's good. It's certainly a good movie, but I just don't think it's great. Like, it's not one of those comedies where I can, like, think about all these classic moments that make me laugh just thinking about them. But I do still like it. It is still a good, solid 7 out of 10 movie. And so when I saw there was a sequel coming out, I was like, what the heck, I'll go ahead and check it out. And now that I've finally gone ahead and watched it, I have to say, I feel about the same way towards this film that I do the first one. It's good. It's not great. Nothing ever made me like laugh hard, admittedly, but it did get like consistent chuckles out of me, and there were some decent laughs here and there. Like there were good bits like the cheese and guitar shop, David St. Hubbins like scoring one of those like when you call a company and they just put you on hold and you hear the elevator music basically like he's like I'm a composer, I score things and that's one of his proudest achievements he says and the band's new manager being unable to process music. Like that, the manager and Carrie Godleman probably had the best lines in the movie, by the way. They got the biggest laughs out of me. You can definitely tell quite a bit of the dialogue here is improvised, which, has its own pros and cons. Like, it definitely makes it feel more natural, but at the same time, it kind of does run the risk of, like, you're taking a chance on just them being able to make up something really funny on the spot. I do actually appreciate that this film doesn't get as absurd as the original. Like, it's quite grounded when you compare it to how crazy things kind of got in the first film. And I feel like if they had made this one really crazy too, it would have felt like jumping the shark. But the fact that this one's more grounded, I think actually does make it a bit more credible as like a legacy sequel about this reunion concert. The pacing in the movie admittedly did feel a bit off. Like it did drag a bit at points, especially when they're just kind of sitting around the hotel they're staying at. Like around the halfway point of the movie, I checked to see how much I checked the time at one point. It was like a little over halfway through. It didn't really feel like much had actually happened. Like they reunited, they started practicing for the concert, and that's about it. Like this is kind of one of those movies where not a lot happens in the actual story. And there are some, and like, okay, so it's mentioned early on that Nigel Tufnell did something to David St. Hubbins to cause the band to break up. And without getting too much into spoilers, when it's finally revealed what happened, it's resolved in like 3 minutes. Like David St. Hubbins just blows up at Nigel, he storms off, and then very quickly they're back together, ready to do the concert. Like it's a nice scene when they do reconcile, but it just feels like it goes by way too quick. And I know I'm not one to enjoy a third act breakup in a movie, but like if it's so rushed like this, I kind of wonder what's even the point. Like if you're gonna do it, like kind of make it feel like it actually impacted something. And the scene that leads into the credits of the movie feels very abrupt. Like it doesn't feel like the movie ends, more like it just stops. Like okay, we're done, bye. Some scenes also weirdly feel cut short. Like they shot more material that they intended to use, but then they decided they were going to trim the movie down to less than 90 minutes, so they cut the scenes down by quite a bit. You can especially feel this in like for biggest example was the cameo scenes. Like they bring back Fran Drescher, they bring back Paul Schaefer for both in the first film, and I feel like they shot a lot more with those characters but decided to trim their scenes down just so that they're both in the movie like less than a minute. And like yeah, the less than 90 minutes, like it's like okay, it doesn't overstay its welcome. Like I could easily see a world where this is like a 2 hour padded out nostalgia fest, and the fact that it's less than 90 minutes at least says okay, we're only going to show you what we feel is necessary. But like I just mentioned, there are some drawbacks from having to cut the film down that short. None of the music really did anything for me, either as parody or as like genuine rock. I kind of liked the song they did with Paul McCartney. That was a little funny, but and the melody was nice, but that's pretty much it in terms of the music. In terms of technicals, the directing is good. It is shot like a real documentary, with including some like B-roll, which is nice. Like a lot of mockumentaries kind of tend to forget to include that. The acting is good. Nobody ever feels like just an actor reading their lines, which again is another pro to the improvisation of the film. Everyone feels very natural. Valerie Franco, in particular, as the drummer of the band, I was particularly surprised with how good her performance was because it turns out she's like an actual drummer. I guess she was part of a small group for a while, but now she's a solo drummer. And this was actually her first acting role, which, again, she felt very natural here. She worked really great with the cast, so I was very surprised to see just how naturally she just fit right in with them. One last note, I will say I was a little surprised that this actually went to theaters because watching this, it kind of felt like one of those legacy sequels you'd kind of see just pop up on a streaming service, like the Christmas Story legacy sequel that just came out in HBO Max a couple years ago. Like, this isn't necessarily an insult, it's just kind of what the movie felt like. It was just kind of a feeling I had. But again, this is a fine legacy sequel to a fine first film. I'm glad that other like major Spinal Tap fans did seem to enjoy this one. I would probably watch this again like whenever I watch the first one. These both kind of work as like good companion pieces to each other. So, yeah, I could definitely see myself watching this again in the future. And I'm going to give Spinal Tap 2 The End Continues a B minus. And on one final note, rest in peace, Rob Reiner. There is actually something very interesting about the fact that his last film ended up being a legacy sequel like this, almost feeling like a bit of a victory lap or a tribute to these characters he helped create. And I'm glad that his final film ended up being a good one, because I feel like that's a good note for his legacy to go out on. So those are my thoughts on Spinal Tap 2, The End Continues. If you have seen the film, be sure to let me know what you think down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe to see more reviews like this in the future. And on that note, I will see you next time. Have a great day.